Hey everybody, Chastity here. Today I am meeting with the amazing Althea Newstetter. I heard of her through a group that we were both in through ES, and I saw some of her amazing paintings. And then one of my friends interviewed her, and I said, "Oh, I have to interview this woman. This is fantastic." So thank you so much. I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about Althea. She's raised in the Bay Area, which is just rich with education in the arts. And then she did studies in Florence, Italy. She has an undergraduate degree in illustration from California College of the Arts in Oakland and a master's in fine art from the San Francisco Art Academy University. She has gone through massive awakening shifts over the cycle of her life that has brought her to live in a little cozy town in the middle of the mountains in southern Utah. So it's far away from the big cities. She's been studying energetic synthesis material for 7 years now and has been studying the awakening of humanity via the exopolitics and esoteric material. So her and I get along really well here. She's currently teaching art at high school in a small town, which both of her teenage daughters attend. And she says that this is the most rewarding aspect of all of her work. So thank you so much, Althea. I'm excited to study what you've brought forth through your awakening, through your amazing paintings. And so thank you so much for being here. Yay.
Yay, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we dive into your paintings, a lot of people really don't know what is ES, what is ES material? Why have you studied this for 7 years? That's a long time to be involved with something and stay true and faithful to something that another person has brought forward for planetary awakening and awareness. So share a little bit about your journey there, please.
Okay, well, before I stumbled across ES, I was started to go down the rabbit hole like many people do. I was living in the city. I had a dark night of the soul, where I had a sudden divorce that came out of nowhere. My husband of 10 years sort of just like up and, left, and I had two little kids. Went into sort of a shock, like it's called a lightning shock. When we are struck by lightning, shocking changes. This can be a terror-based or painful event in our lives that activates intense energy pouring up and into the body, and this creates an inner conjunction with the energy blockages in the body, which surfaces great discomfort, anxiety, pain, or fear. Most of the time, when we experience an event in our lives in which lightning strikes occur, it is uncovering not only false structures, but buried parts of the unconscious mind and cellular memories that are embedded in our bodies. And it's after I went into ES, I understood what that was. And that was about 2009. And that's when, your life gets shocked with lightning bolt.
Like like, oh my gosh, it sounds like it's hitting your central nervous system, right? And
Yeah,
just
I
like,
mean, it threw me to the floor. Like I
oh
was
my,
on the floor for about a year.
oh gosh.
And and I'm grateful for that experience because I was living a falsity and I didn't realize it. I had been living in my husband had been lying to me. So I was living in a lie and I knew, since I'm an empath, I knew I was living in a lie. And I started to like understand that, but I couldn't admit it. And so the deeper one goes into the die-off stage to drop density, the greater the spiritual resurrection. Similarly, the more one allows the influx of Kundalini spirit phases during the heart and consciousness expansion. The deeper one goes into the die-off stages. The die-off is either acute or chronic, depending on the person and the phase of awakening. It happens after each influx of spirit. The spiritual initiation stages as the flesh transmutes density. There is a die-off of the conventional conditioned structures, as well as potential toxins throughout the bodies, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. I found out that I had been living in a lie for years and years and years because he had another life. And so when I found out, I was at the beach with my two little girls and we were living a dream life. We were living it. And I remember because I had like a community of mothers who, we raised our children a certain way, we nursed until self-weaned and, this whole natural lifestyle. And, everybody had wonderful male partners. And so I couldn't understand how mine couldn't be wonderful too. And so I kept up the facade to myself. And then suddenly one day I found out the truth and it was done. And from that moment on, my life went into a living hell because he tried to take my children and he tried to, I was literally thrown on the streets with two little kids. And after having a very wealthy life, we had a very comfortable life, and so then that's called the dark night of the soul. And I don't need to go into more detail that.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but like, I think we need to chat more because I have literally the exact same experience,
Wow.
like living a beautiful, wealthy life. All of a sudden, husband gone, nowhere to go. Like, oh my gosh, we need to chat more on this one but thank you for sharing that.
You know what, Chastity, this is so common.
It is. It
It's
is.
so common.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is or why it is common,
Yeah.
but it is. It is part of this awakening process. And us females who have embodied this high spiritual, we've come from a high spiritual place, embodying into this density,
Yeah.
many, many lifetimes. This lifetime, that's it. We're going to do this. And so whatever it takes and whatever we have to experience. And so sometimes for some reason it shows up like that.
Yeah, and they just keep throwing it at us because heaven forbid we completely wake up and remember and step into our full power. I mean, if I think that if we could have done that sooner, um, you know, the true mother would have been here sooner, right? I think it would have just been like done a while back, even without the planetary processions. I think we could have brought it here sooner. But anyway, thank you for sharing that. You're right. It is the way it is, right?
Well, there was an opening in the 60s and the 70s, actually, when I was born,
I didn't
74.
know that. That's when I was born. 74.
Great. So it's actually so it's in our charts as well because it's a
Oh,
it's
gosh,
a
darn it.
that means that we have the Chiron and everything in the same spot. We carry these generational curses, perhaps you could say, and a lot of times people of the same generation will experience the same struggle. And
Yeah.
you'll see that in different generations as well. Not just like, so ours is particular. And so we're seeing this in our generation.
Oh,
That's in our charts. The solar Rishi suns are here now. And so the mother is here.
yeah.
And it it could have come earlier, it doesn't really matter. It's all in divine timing because there is no time,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And I just feel like I'm hearing all this beautiful singing and these fantastic vibrations right now. I'm just loving this. I love that we're gathering together today. It just feels, especially with, you know, it feeling so ominous lately, right?
Mhm.
It's just like, when we get to gather like this, and as much as they try to keep us apart, we found a way to still find our way, to be together and share. Share. So I'm excited to like see like your journey through paint. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to see
Uh,
this.
So the ominous feeling that we're feeling right now
Mhm.
is actually um, this darkness being lifted
Yeah,
up out of the planetary body, and so it's heavy. It's very heavy, and the light is shining on it so bright that it feels so ominous, but you know,
I know, but so good. And I always have this little guy. Hi, little buddy. I don't mean that's the Gemini in me. Oh, look. But it's this cute little hummingbird. And he's so happy because I filled up his hummingbird feeder. And I said this the last time I was talking to somebody too, because he's super jazzed. And every time I sit here, he likes to come up and go, hey, how's
that crash created the I started to see the chemtrails in the sky. Well, I already knew, because I was raised by a holistic doctor. I was very fortunate. I was born at home in the 70s. My parents were hippies, and you know, I was very fortunate because they were as awake as you could get for that time period.
Mhm.
Awakening starts with fear. And so, you start to get scared. It's like, oh, I can't feed my babies plastic and I have to have organic. And then you get paranoid, and then, oh, there's chemtrails, and oh, how do we stay safe? And, you start to see reality, and it's very, very scary. And I feel that fear process, you have to find a way to deal with it. You don't want to go into escapism.
Yeah.
Is a dark night of the soul, and each individual has to take as long as they take.
Mhm.
And some people will have it faster before they start to like go through a healing process, which feels good. And for me, it was a really long process. Like it was like 10 years.
The dark night of the soul. During spiritual initiation or active Kundalini ascension stages, there are four main types of the down cycle of spiritual crisis, which could be associated with what the ancients and mystics have called the dark night of the soul. These phases of spiritual development are unavoidable, as the living death or ego death must occur for resurrection of the spiritual body and mind. All must enter the dark night of the soul or spiritual crisis, perhaps many times during the cyclical process of evolution, during the spiritual ascension process. The planet is undergoing a global level of the dark night of the planetary collective soul during the ascension cycle.
Did is I went back to school, and I went back to school for my master's of fine art. I had to find a way to survive. I was literally living on the streets in a trailer with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Mm.
And I was like, I started a daycare center and did all that. And I was like, I found out I could go back to school and they would give me money through loans.
Yeah.
So anyway, I found my way back into art because I had been into art before I got married and had kids. But then at 5 years, I didn't touch my paintings because painting comes from your birthing center.
Mhm.
And so that's the second chakra is the creative chakra. And I gave all my creative juices and energies to my daughters.
Mhm.
And so like was nursing them till they were 5 and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so I didn't create, they were my creation.
Yep.
And then about 5 years old, I could pick up. That's when I went back to school and got my master's, because that's when the opportunity of coming back into yourself, I was a mother, returns.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds, gosh, again, more parallels. I nursed my kids until they were just done. Some were done
Yeah.
sooner than others, but
One was
yeah,
done
you
at
do.
3 and one was done at 5, and we tandem nursed, so they just, like, stopped together. They
Yeah.
stopped sleeping with me together,
Oh, wow. And I'm still sleeping with my 5-year-old. She has her own room and everything. And it's like, she just wants to be with me. But yeah, that is like, that's what moms do, right? And it's, we give our creative expression, whether that's wrong or right, it seems to be what we do,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Until,
called attachment parenting.
and
But, so yeah, so there's that whole experience, but then when I went back into my art, I found myself. I had an outlet. I was able to channel the fears, the energies, and I did it all online amazingly. So then I was able to get up and move to Utah. We literally were living in a trailer, and I just wanted to be in a safe space. And so we moved to the mountains of Utah. Because of a lot of research, this is one of the safest spots, according to Joel Skousen. Master at that, finding safest places. I actually thought what's happening now was happening then.
oh,
And
wow.
that was 2012 when I moved here. And I actually thought that was happening.
I think you would know, I kind of feel like it was some type of weird reversal or kind of like whammy on us or something. And it actually is the case, because 21, 12,
Mhm.
they're the same numbers.
Reversal as well in the astrology. So I have a south node in Sag. And right now the north node's in Sag, which means that exactly when I moved out here in 2012, it was a nodal reversal.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, we're in an exact reversal of that time period. And there's like a flip of the energy. It's like actually we're turning inside out collectively. Because like what happened about when I started to reading ES material, back to your original question.
Yeah, that's okay. We're going to get there, right? It's the way it works.
If you would come across Lisa's material and you recognize the language, because she speaks another language,
Right.
then you're drawn in. We are her, I would call descendants or pupils, the people who study with Lisa. And the reason is because not everybody has that experience, because there's so much mind control. Mind control. When one has control over the thoughts of one's mind, one has control over the direction and actions of the physical body, all of its parts, and reclaiming of the soul's energy. Whoever controls the mind controls the soul. Mind control is used to form socially acceptable belief systems and shape value systems, to which are used to control the masses to enslave themselves on planet Earth. That people, even though they've been reincarnated here for thousands and thousands of years, they are star-seeded, but it's been so long since they actually touched back to their original home base in some respects. And they've been so messed with, tampered with, that when they come across ES material, they can't read it.
Mind slides. It is a mind slide program where human beings completely ignore unapproved topics or unapproved words, terms, or issues that would challenge their belief systems in the 3D narrative or involve their enslavement or torture that was hidden by the amnesiac barrier, even if they come face to face with it. Mind slides are a form of mind control that can be implemented through radio waves that form frequencies that transmit into the person's unconscious mind in their bioenergetic field.
And it's like a blank. Like, I know you probably shared writings of Lisa and you're like, oh, this makes so much sense. And you read it to somebody and they can't hear you.
People don't understand it. Yeah. And so for our listeners, Althea and I were chatting prior to coming on and recording about putting a language to who and what we are and what we do, right? And some of us do hands-on work, some of us work through painting, some of us work through, just healing across time, space, and there's so many different things, right? You take Lisa's information and it sounds like jibber jabber or it's like a computer program that doesn't work or but to someone like us or people that this is our I guess lineage or at least first steps into opening us up to who and what we are, right? This is a really amazing opportunity to connect in, to go back home, to hear a language that makes sense. It's like, oh my gosh, I was telling Althea, oh my gosh, that's what I've been doing this whole time. And now there's words to like what I'm seeing and experiencing, whereas before there were no words, right? And I didn't even have paintings to look at. And, and paintings are words. And so, yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going.
Right. Paintings are words. And that's why I teach painting now. After I got my master's and I just started to work on my thesis, and my thesis was called Shifting Frequencies. I'm not going to show those paintings, but you can see them at my website. It's really simple, altheaart.com. And my shifting frequencies was about the negative energies and the positive energies at play and that struggle. I had to lose everything like 3 times.
Yeah, that's a lot of times.
I built up a house here. I built up, had goats. I was going to become self-sufficient. I was going to, garden and make my own food. And I did for a while. And then I lost everything suddenly, just as suddenly as with the divorce. It was very strange. Like, it was all of a sudden the landlord said, you have to leave. I don't care. I had a huge greenhouse, I manifested so much. Everything, it's like back to square one. It was like I had to do that because to disintegrate my ego. And in order for me to do that, I had to lose everything 3 times.
Yep. Yep. It takes a while to dematerialize what we materialized.
And being very attached to your
Mhm.
egoic state, and having, as long as you are triggered,
Mhm.
your negative ego is running you.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And so my children were triggering me. I would scream. I would get upset. My ego was running me.
Mhm.
And that was the Holy Spirit saying, let's just do this again.
I told you once, you weren't listening. So back to the drawing board.
And it's in your blind spot.
Yeah.
So when something's in your blind spot, it makes no sense. You don't understand. You're a victim. Then you got to go through the victimizer,
VV
deprogramming.
mind control. The main goal of the victim victimizer mind control and software is based on divide and conquer tactics and intentionally programming humanity to think thoughts of violence and hatred about others to promote the archonic deception behaviors and their unethical AD strategies as a fear based control belief system. As humans feed their power into these AD systems and hierarchies based upon violence, lies, and deception, the deception is covered up and is fabricated. Reality becomes an anti value system to enforce the death culture. As long as humans think thoughts and maintain belief systems of the predator mind and feed into the alien software programs, they create victim and victimizers and spread more hatred and violence into the earth grids. Humans exchange roles between acting as the archetypal victim, and then because they do not want to be a victim anymore, they switch their role to become a victimizer. Both are forms of perpetuating inner and outer violence.
You know, it's so funny, and I see this programming. I do etheric surgery, so I see this programming in people, and it's so funny. It's like, don't shoot the messenger. Sometimes I want to come with a warning label, like, I'm just the messenger, right? But I'll say, so here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing some victimization, and then go into the thing, and it's like, well, I'm not a victim. I don't know, like, I've never been, and on it goes, and it's like, oh dear.
The language doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. And that's the I don't know who said this, but that's the problem with communication is we think it's happening, right? So, and I'm like, here I am, double Gemini, thinking, no, I'm a communicator, like I'm a master communicator.
Mhm.
Well, then that means, I had to learn how to master other people's ways of communicating, right? Not just
And
running
that's what
my,
we have to do. We have to bring it down.
yeah,
Bring it down. So after we go through our own awakening process, so I shared that with you, and you have yours, and everyone has theirs, and it never stops,
yeah.
because I still, obviously, I'm not going to lose everything again, knock on wood, because I have anchored the Christic frequencies into my body.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, I had to repel the demonic forces.
We dismantle the house of lust and addiction. We dismantle the house of wrath and rage. We dismantle the house of greed and avarice. We dismantle the house of envy and jealousy. We dismantle the house of gluttony and waste. We dismantle the house of laziness and discouragement. We dismantle the house of pride and self importance.
That process, like you said, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to admit that. And
Mhm.
so that's why I was actually fortunate to have it forced upon me. Not everyone is so fortunate.
Right.
They
You're
aren't.
right. They aren't.
Some people just go through life and they have a great life and they have money and they're happy and they do not evolve.
Nope.
And when I came to Earth, I was like, you better make me evolve because I'm getting out of here.
I got stuff to do. I got places to go, people to see. Ah,
It's been quite a few lifetimes,
yeah, yeah.
which is what I'm going to talk about my paintings, because actually, let's go straight to that. Okay, so my pictures are consciousness corridors. Okay, and so they anchor a new reality field into this time space continuum and into the current timeline. So they have crystal codes. Now, when I painted them, I didn't know that. I'm trying to rewrite ES material all the time. And
Mhm.
that's really hard to do, to dilute the language so people can hear it.
Mhm.
So if anybody actually listens to Lisa speak, and I'm sure some people here have, because all of her newsletters are free.
Right.
Okay. So you go in and you start listening to her. A lot of people get about 20 minutes in,
Maybe.
maybe. And actually, that's how I was too. Okay. So I started by listening to her and getting 10 minutes in, but I stopped going. And what happened is the words went into my unconscious
Mhm.
and they decoded my light body.
Yeah.
They started to uncode the programming. So our light body doesn't change with it evolves with us as we evolve. So even though our memories are wiped, our light bodies have evolved and they carry them with us. We
They
just can't.
still have, yeah, it's, I call it cellular memory or cellular coding. Like we have all, we actually have all of the answers to the universe within us, right? We don't have access to them. And so I've found, it sounds like what you're saying is when Lisa shares information over this time, her language is gently going through the body, going through the system, and breaking down the hidden aspects, the programming, like you said, so AI programming, old spells and curses, it's slowly breaking them down so our own cellular memory and matrix can come back online. So that means it's not like putting something in us, it's having us remember, right?
Yeah, because I'm teaching an art history class, and so it's so fascinating. And I'm going back in time, and I actually, as I'm doing the research for this class, I'm going back, and it's just activating so much in me. So what I realized as I was studying the Roman period, the Romanesque period, and they were extremely sexual, and
Mhm.
they were sexualized to the point of like debauchery.
Uh-huh.
And I'm getting chills speaking about this because I realize as I study, as I teach, because I was gifted teaching. And as I'm teaching this class, that time period is when we had the sexual misery program implanted in our body, and it was expressed through this debauchery. Sexual misery. The sexual misery program is to intentionally reverse, distort, manipulate, and abuse the sexual energies, therefore abuse the spiritual energies in human beings incarnated on this planet. It is intended to create sexual predators and sexual deviants in the human race. Mostly people that have addiction issues that are easily harvested in reversal networks for their sexual energy.
Mm.
And it's in the paintings on the walls.
Isn't it's everywhere, and then it surrounds people.
Yeah, so lower chakras. Okay. And so what time period is this? This is before Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything in history is like either before Christ or after Christ,
Mhm.
which is very interesting. We can talk on that. But so I'm so gifted with this class to study this information
That's
and share it.
awesome.
But so that's what we're talking about. That's how ancient this is. And that sexual misery program stems from there.
Mhm.
Well, it got in earlier, but that's where it sort of like expressed it.
Flourished, bloomed.
So this is that every time period in our history, which is happening simultaneously, it's not in our past, is recorded in our light body, like you said, go through all of that. And as we do that, we do it for the collective.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's not any one person that doesn't get to experience these things, right? Except for the ones that have come in and chosen not to ascend, right? Then they still get to live their little lives and be controlled or whatever.
I was
Not
thinking about,
likely those are star seeds. What
I was thinking about those people.
were you?
Yeah, I'm thinking that those people are like fractured pieces of souls
Fascinating.
because they're
Yeah,
not completely embodied. They can't embody themselves. And
yeah,
so they are like a fractured aspect of themselves. And then the rest of them is being used in this battery body for this dark
interesting.
energy.
Um, so we had like in my class, we did uh, Saturday. I just started my next round of classes, but we just talked about the cosmic law evolution edict.
Humans with negative ego, fear-based belief systems that are extremely dogmatic, rigid, or violent, learned through mind control, religion, science, academic, or dark ignorance, are disconnected from spiritual consciousness and soul, unwilling to change, adapt, evolve, or learn any content beyond their current material beliefs. The ego personality is threatened and will judge, lash out, punish, and use deception and fear to control others. The toxic field and miasma residue of these humans is being depolarized and returned into the void abyss through the mother's aqua ray tunnel vortex. People that do not participate with their spiritual ascension or consciousness evolution are primarily focused on materialism, however, have developed the minimum amount of loving kindness and non judgmental behaviors towards others. The remainder of their time on earth, they will receive life lessons to continually let go of personal egoic or material needs in order to serve the needs of others. These lessons of selflessness will have direct consequences to their ascension choice. If they digress in polarity, they will lose their choice.
Because it was really coming up, and like who falls into, what level of ascension, like if you're this, can you ascend? If you're that, where are you in the life, in the levels. Anyway, look it up in the Ascension Glossary. It's called Cosmic Law Evolution Edict, and it's really very fascinating. And I was called to pull that up while we were talking about things. I thought we were going to talk about the law of one, and I'm like, oh, I thought we were going to talk about like unity consciousness. And my guides are like, this is about unity consciousness. It's just a different level that I hadn't spoken about before, and so it was really pretty fascinating. But there's an edict of war against starseeds too. So funny you should bring that up. But okay.
Yeah, it's the soul
Yeah.
capturing machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Fascinating, right?
Right, where they want us all to go, but that some of us are part of the resistance.
Hmm. I know, right? And it's like not the resistance that we're seeing plastered all over mainstream media. So please don't confuse the two.
Yeah, and learning art history also, all of this is being played out is just
Yes.
a phantom of the same expression that's been over and over and over again.
Same freaking thing. And I don't know if you've noticed this, Althea, but some of it really only is a phantom. It really only is a memory. And once you look at it, all of that dissolves through space and time.
Yeah.
Once you identify it for exactly what it is, it will dissolve itself.
And
It's it's so cool.
isn't it fascinating that as above, so below? So as we have to go through in one lifetime everything that we need to resolve in our karma, in our destiny, our karmic souls matrix, so does humanity, all in one lifetime. This is the one lifetime because we are at the end of the cycle, and so everything's going to play out. All of it is playing out.
Yeah.
That we have played out before until we see it for what it is. And once we see it, like you say, that's the power, and that's the end game.
Yep, that's the power that we have. All you have to do, and this is what I tell people, ask to see the unseen, right?
Mhm.
Ask to see the truth.
People can't access this ability to see because of food and other things and mind control, but actually the opening now is available. It's like dream space.
Yeah.
And so when you walk and you look at something, it will activate your memory unconsciously, and then you can see in a way you hadn't seen before, and you don't even notice the change. I'm going to start here with the Atlantean flood. And this is, if you go to Ascension Glossary and you type up timeline trigger events, you will see that Lisa Renee has lovely put together a beautiful presentation of our true history. And it's something that, I use actually to look at and compare when I study history with, and it aligns. But the Sumerian Egyptian invasion was the first takeover Iran and Iraq in the 10th gate. And the three paintings I'm talking about are all the same story. And it's the story of our evolution where we came from Tara, and Lyra, and we had the Atlantean civilizations there, and it fell to Earth, and we developed it here. But there was an invasion here, as we know. And so this is the painting I'm going to talk about.
This is one of my favorite ones of yours.
So this is called Wisdom Keepers, and it has many different aspects to it. The girl in the painting is I use my daughters as models all the time. So,
Beautiful.
but the Raw Confederacy are the winged creatures, and they're part of the seraphim genetics. But if you look back at ancient Egypt, you'll find all kinds of images of half bird, half man creatures. Okay. And there are some that are very fallen, and they had seraphim genetics, and they fell into the reptilian hybridization. And so there's all different kinds of bird beings in our past. And this one is Ra, which represents, the gold ray, higher sun activation, and is also part of the Guardian Alliance. So it's a creature that represents some of the lost lineages. And this is the Magi. So the Magi lineages are record keepers, and that's what she represents, which is what in Egypt, it's all about record keeping, because it was a very important time in our history. And we had so much stolen from us and so much raided. It was like horrific. So what we did as higher consciousness beings is we put the record into our bodies. So there's these discs that are all over the planet that hold our true origins and law of one and all of the great teachings that have been stolen and used for different purposes. But whatever we could keep, we recorded it in our bones. And that's what the bone matrix is.
Right.
We recorded it in our DNA and our bones. And so our bodies became, so the book of knowledge, this is from Lisa right here. So we hold the book of knowledge of the mechanics of the universe, and that lineage is called the Magi lineage. The level of consciousness was like a record keeper for the universe, and many of those beings embody this knowledge and literally protect it in their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I just want to ask a couple questions, because sometimes these things come up. Like, there are some people who say, well, the Raw Confederacy created some damage. They came in and created some issues. So, why would I want to, participate in listening to them? Have you heard that before? Like, why should I listen to them?
So, the Melchizedeks, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the people will say the same thing about the Melchizedek, right? Because
So
they're.
This is the thing. There's a higher knowledge that is sacred.
Yeah.
And then it falls into this universal time matrix, and it reverses itself, and it becomes fallen angelic. That's what the fallen angels are.
Yes.
And so these demonic entities can only replicate. They can't create. And so they hybridize bodies. And so if you think of Ra, for every being that is like a higher dimensional being, there's going to be an inversion of it. Because so like all of these mythical creatures, there's bad dragons, there's good dragons, there's, these mythical creatures are winged birds that were like, Thoth, who is a negative energy, was a fallen angel. So there's a fall. That's why he has higher consciousness, because this matrix is it's like a mirror. It's like, the dark spell that happened to the earth and everything, and the invasion of planet Earth is like, it takes everything that's organic and Christic and uses it to create its own body.
Right. Right. So basically, there are good and bad in all kinds, right? And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood is that there were, like the fallen angelics, and I may be distorting some information, but it's like maybe I'm thinking of the family of Michael, and this is different. But they came to like help, but because they had to step down so much, they got infiltrated and then stuck and then forced, basically enslaved, just like we are, right? To do not so good things. Am I understanding that correctly?
Right. They get so the negative ego is the three lower chakras, and these three lower aspects in our body are also in the earth body. And so they fall into these negative ego programs, and in order to pull people out of the matrix. And that's actually how we all got here in some respect, because we all want to come in and save or help the earth evolve, because we love Mother Earth. Mother Earth is an amazing place, and it always has been. It's a vortex, right? So, well, it's a seed planet. It's a seed. It creates things. So yeah, they fell, and that's what happens with Michael, the seraphim.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
are
yeah,
the seraphim the same as the oraphim?
the seraphim and the orphim. I think they're both. If actually my next,
Oh, I want to go back. Oh, hold on. I
here,
want to go back.
okay,
Okay, no, let's see. No, it's okay. Let's see that. I'm
because
just
here
loving
I
it.
have some information from the Ascension Glossary.
Okay.
So we are in a phantom. Let me just say this: we are in a phantom section of the universe, and that there are trap levels of raw families that are entwined with the seraphim and gold ray issues with the Earth and other planets. Think of infiltration problems with the Golden Eagle grid, Iran and Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the seed of humanity, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's, kind of the questions I'm asking. So perfect.
The seraphim branches have severe problems with reptoid, Belial programs, Melchizedek, and other avian hybrids that created problems with them evolving through alien hybridization and stealing genetics.
Right.
So basically, if you think of like, these beautiful mythical creatures having their genetics taken, used, and hybridized, and then birthed into dark angelic beings
Yep.
that weren't really their true soul mission.
Yeah.
So during the Egyptian timeline, a lot of damage was incurred by the lower raw entities who descended further, and some of these extremely negative branches are called Horus raw entities. And they were working with the control of the sun and solar system, right, with the black star Abaddon.
Yep.
Okay, so many of them are abducting humans and exploiting them. They seem to have relationships with these Anunnaki factions in the Middle East.
Beautiful.
Right,
So
and
that, yeah. Go ahead.
these three paintings are about the Middle East, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm really interested in, and what I'm studying about teaching art history, is because everything comes back to the Middle East.
Yeah.
Even the Bible, the birth of Jesus, everything, it comes from this spot, because it is a portal, it's a vortex, it's a very important place.
So the wisdom keepers, so is everybody a wisdom keeper, or is there certain just lineage, beings of like, because she's a wisdom keeper, is she, are wisdom keepers just the gold ray frequencies?
See how she holds the gold,
Yeah.
the magenta, and the blue,
Mhm.
right? Or so that's a threefold flame.
Yep.
So there are people who hold the gold ray,
Mhm.
but they also hold the other rays. And then they just focus on that. They have like a lineage. It's like if you were mostly, European or
Mhm.
like Irish, you would have mostly Irish, but you'd have these other aspects.
Yeah.
So yeah, they hold them because, okay, the question is everybody? The question, and I don't really know the answer to that question.
Mhm.
I can guess.
Nah, we don't need to guess. It's cool. I just, people might be curious. So I like to ask kind of tough questions sometimes, right?
But I
Um,
mean, like when I feel into it,
mhm,
because I don't know the answer,
yeah.
um, it just seems like there are some souls that embody during this time period.
Mhm,
And during this time period, they had a certain mission and they carry it through. Now, some souls embodied later on and never really went through this portal
mhm.
of this time period of this, they came in later and they have different codes to bring in.
Beautiful. So basically, but the but basically this is the gold ray, and this is the raw confederation, essentially the high vibrating gold ray seraphim frequencies that are holding like the wisdom of um, like all of humanity, all of the universal uh, languages, all of the universal like truths. Is that kind of how this is?
Well,
Because
they
this looks like a whole like huge hall of like wisdom. Like if I were to like touch one of those, like I know those are 12 tree grids, right? And so like if I were to touch one of those, I feel like it would like open up a library of information like that when I look at your painting. So
that's called the Hall of Amente, right?
mhm,
I mean, that's what it is. It's like the Akashic records.
yeah.
So that's what, uh, if you look at our history, you look at the Library of Alexandria, or you look at different places that have burnt down, or you look at Egypt, when just it's always been a fight for information. And well, the information is encoded in our DNA,
Mhm.
our 12 tree grid. If we can access the 12 tree grid, if we visualize, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah.
So the 12 tree grid, all you have to do is use your mind, which is magic, and visualize the 12 tree grid and overlay it on your body. And as you do that, it's a key and it unlocks this code of memory
Mhm.
that you can access information that might not come in as words,
It's
but
just simply beautiful.
and it's a memory, because every time we're born, actually, every time we go to sleep,
Mhm.
our memories get wiped. So we're fighting it. And we knew then we would be fighting this attack against our founder race's seed codes
Yeah. Yeah. I
for the
think that,
12.
yeah, I think the blank slate technology is really getting wiped away. So it's more about us remembering how to, at this point, and this has just only been recently from my lensing, right? But it's like at this point, we're going to be able to remember so much easier, right? So it's just getting easier and easier and easier. And your painting to me looks like so easy and so wise and so like, oh my gosh, all I have to do is touch this and the information is going to come to me. And it's like, these guardians are saying, I'm here, look at the beautiful magic that you hold, right? Sit down, let me show you, right? This is like, it just speaks this beautiful like love language of don't forget we're here. Don't forget you have this body of knowledge. And, I just, it feels like, coming home. It feels like coming home. So thank you for this. This is
Yeah, and our,
beautiful.
our cats do that, or our dogs, or our animals, or sheep, whatever. I mean, like when they look at us, they do that too, because they hold the memory of the earth body
Yeah.
in their bodies. So yeah, our minds are constantly getting wiped.
Mhm.
In fact, my mind just got wiped now because I had this when you were talking, I had this vision of what's happening with school. Okay, now it's coming back to me. So as a teacher, I'm teaching art. Okay, I'm teaching art. I had to create the class. Okay, so they want to eliminate art from schools. And I'm not just talking art, I'm talking about music and singing and dance and
Yes.
poetry. You don't learn poetry in school anymore. We used to. So this is all, and I got chills, this is all how we access these codes. So if we don't have access to a creative self, the mind slide stays.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said just now, the mind slide's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to get rid of. All you have to do is pick up a paintbrush, pick up a pen, write a poem, allow yourself to dream. But they are forcing students in school not to do that on purpose because it's so profound right now and easy to access.
Yeah. Easy to access. That's the trick right there, opening up a whole new harmonic where like everybody has access to this unbelievable amounts of energy, should you so choose to focus on it, right?
Yeah, with this,
So
the
it's
light.
like you're saying, yeah, and this is exactly the painting. We are right here. Look at how close we are. We can touch you, we can see you. You have all of this knowledge and wisdom. Let me show you. This is beautiful. I love these little sparkly guys on the side too.
Oh yeah, I was playing with that. So you know, we can move on. You
Okay,
want to move on?
sure.
This one. Oh, so this is okay. So the let's just talk about the family role. One more minute.
Yeah.
Has become visible this year. Um, okay, so what I was talking about the upside down world, it says with the black hole entities used to holographically project the upside down world of inverted systems that we have come to know as 3D Earth. That explains Earth.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
It's an inverted system. So this one is called healing. This is okay. This is the Essene Templars,
Okay.
and
And
it,
who are the Essenes? Explain what the Essenes are to our listeners.
okay. Um,
I know I always get confused if I am so grateful that you're actually being the clicker here because
I'm just going to go here to the ES glossary for a
beautiful.
minute. We'll
This
look
is
at this definition because my paintings are expressions of the glossary. I'm
perfect.
trying to express the glossary
Yeah.
or illustrate this. So the Essene Christus Templars, the order of the Christ Templars, the real Templars were the order of the Christ. And they come, the Gnostic Essenes, and they come from the Cathar lines.
Mm-hmm.
And they sacrifice themselves to protect the wisdom, knowledge, and frequency of Sophia on this earth for the ascension cycle for us, okay? For us now, for their future self. So gets a little complex, so we can go back.
No, that's good. It's very and this is where we get into, who are the Oraphim, who are the Templars, right? Like people will put the Templars in with the Catholics. And, I'm a recovering Catholic. And so, when I hear Templars or when I grew up hearing the word Templars, I thought to myself, those are God's people. And, that's what I thought and that's what I believed. But then you read all these things of like massacre and I know how inverted the church is. And so I'm like, that those aren't God's people. Like, what is that? Right. And so, it's understanding and understanding that God's people were slaughtered, right? That they did protect with their own bodies, the Christus Sophia, and it looks like this looks. Explain your painting. I see what I see is like this is like the memory, the re-memory of the evolution of what these tribes stand for, who these people are, and how they bring truth and peace. I'm seeing peace and truth. It looks like justice, right? All kinds of really fun things in here. I can't wait to hear about this
So I
one.
painted this in a stained glass window style on purpose. If you look at my art, you can see different styles and, I have realistic styles and whatever. And this is done on purpose in this very flat motif of stained glass. I want it because what the Templars did, and I'm learning this in my research more and more, is that they hid codes in their stained glass windows and in their architecture.
Beautiful.
So they traveled the world of their, before the crusade. They had a knowledge, they had a sacred knowledge, and some call it the Holy Grail. Or, they had access to the Holy Grail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they were killed, because they held something, and it wasn't a physical thing. In fact, it was an understanding and a consciousness of how the ley lines worked on the earth plane. And we know this because they've actually done a ton of research on what happened to them and why they traveled so much. And they traveled from temple to temple, and they'd find a certain landmass, which was actually where the ley lines hit. And then they would build a temple. Then they would coat it with artwork and in their stained glass window and in the architecture. They'd leave codes for each other, and then they'd leave and go and do it again.
Hmm.
So what were they doing? They were doing something. And they knew stuff. And basically the Roman Catholic Church, wanted it. They wanted it. And did they get it? I don't know. They got something. It's like a magic. They got something, and they could reverse it to power up their grids.
The language. They got it looks like they got a taste for the language, and they were able to reverse the frequencies of the language. But do you suppose the Holy Grail is something like people are always searching for that? Do you think that that's just actually something in the body? Or, is that actually in the body? Is that the Christic knowledge that is the Holy Grail? Or do you think it's something, because they're physically looking for it still to this day?
I know. Yeah, it's a key. It's a key to the portals within your body.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just at the same time that this was going on, we had stuff going on in India, which is the Buddha and all of that enlightenment and accessing, and China and all of learning about the ancient technologies. It was all happening at the same time. But here I'm focusing on this area of the planet, because this area of the planet is where it got infiltrated, and that's where the negative aliens came in, and that's where they got a stronghold, and then they moved out from there. The Roman Church was infiltrated, and that's how it spread.
Right.
Through the
Like a
Stargate.
virus. Like a virus. What's the language around this in the background?
That's just light language. It does say Kara Yasa Ta'ala, and that's Kristalla. The seraphim image of the bird is kind of like the same as the Ra, and that's why these all are working together, because the seraphim is the golden eagle. It's also the gold sun DNA, and it also is the winged birds. It's the winged creatures, and this is a very old painting. If you guys recognize this symbol is in ancient art, probably like Celtic. I don't know what time frame exactly, but I remember seeing it, and whenever I saw this symbol, I immediately felt like, that's my sister, that's my family, that's my code, that's my shield of honor, that's me, whatever. So I'm connected to that.
Beautiful. So when you are painting, you really feel like that, we all have like a symbol, not all of us, but we feel really called to a symbol. And so like, this is your shield, this is your protector, this is your family, this is like a representation of like what you hold. Like this is expressing through, like you're putting a lot of thought and beauty into moving the words that you're reading into a painting. I wanted to say not a painting because it's like a reflection of, it's a reflection of the words, but it's also a reflection of you. It's a reflection of your body and how you interpret things, right? So I think that's really fantastic. Thank you.
So shield is that once you find your inner soul, once you find your lineage, you connect to your lineage, you're shielded.
Yeah.
So your lineage shields you. And that is why we all need to like kind of remember who we are. Remembering who we are is very important.
It is very important. I agree with you. It's amazing the access we have to protection, to tools, to sacred, these sacred gifts that we have. Uh, it's just fantastic to remember that. And is this in the background of them? It almost looks like there's a couple different portals here.
Oh, in the painting.
Yeah.
Well, here's another layer to this painting, which is the Michael Mary twinning, because these are the Michael Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Michael Mary are the heart twinning of the soul of the male female, you know. So Michael is Saint Michael reversed, and captured. And the other thing about the Essenes is they had they had the women be equal as men,
Mm-hmm.
if not more. They were like they held the codes to birthing, and so it was a huge deal what they could do. They knew a lot of magic around how to keep babies alive and different things like that in that time period. And the women were very, very important for that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little side note here.
Oh, beautiful.
So the Cathars are, their last stand where they went up before they were taken out. This is where they made a safe place for themselves, but they also traveled a lot,
Mm-hmm.
So this is the land of the Cathars.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ancient, they're the ancient Christians in some respect because they are after Christ, but it's not Christianity as we know it today at all.
Right.
Yeah, it's not. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And so, who does Mary represent? When I hear Michael Mary, I'm like, who's Michael? Is that Saint Michael? Is that Mary the mother? Who is that?
So I don't think it's Mary the mother,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be because see, Sophia is the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Sophia's the daughter. So Sophia Christ and Michael Mary are the partners. Some people feel or really truly feel and connect to, and they're not wrong necessarily at all, that Mary and Christ are one. Lisa speaks of it as Christ, Sophia, and Michael Mary.
Mm-hmm.
It's the rod and staff, and so it's the male and female,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the gender fin. Um,
At the rate of spin. So, for those of you who don't understand, it's how the Merkaba spins in the body, right? Because there's a male spin and a female spin, and we want that to be spinning properly on its axis. Mhm,
yeah, that's the Merkaba.
mhm,
So a lot of people will come across all of this esoteric material way before entering Lisa, and then so they're usually familiar with this. The Merkaba, you can spin it, and it's a light body vehicle, but it's actually more than just spinning it. It's merging your male and female and getting in touch with how to be a male and female energy in one body.
right.
So in order to have a light body vehicle, you have to embrace your inner masculine and feminine equally. Otherwise, no matter how much you visualize a spinning triangle, that's nice, but you have to actually physically embody true male female aspects, which are not reversals. If you have a female body, then you have a male soul, right? And if you have a male body, then you have a female soul.
Mhm,
Okay, that's what Lisa teaches. So,
mhm.
or an oversoul.
Yeah, that would be the monadic body.
Yeah, the monadic body. So whatever you are embodying in your physical form, you can consider that you have a male aspect. Like if I have a female body, I have a male counterpart that
Mhm.
doesn't have to show up in the real world and
Yeah.
manifest, although it can, and it will trigger that growth for you. Right?
Beautiful.
So this is the last one we'll talk about, which is the Solar Gate in Giza. And I just really wanted to paint this painting. It's very simple. Sometimes my ego gets involved and I'm like, oh no, I need to paint a portrait. I have to show off my skill, or I have to show a certain look. And it actually takes a lot for me to just be like, okay, I'm just going to I need to say something. So that's my process. You asked how I process this work. I have to like move away from what my expectation of art is, because it's not always going to show up that way. But anyway, this is the Solar Gate in Egypt. And right now, you always know, you can look at the world, that this area is always being battled around. So Lisa and Tomas went there themselves with a group of people. And this photo is, I found a photo online of them doing that in the ES. And they're there and they're holding it down. And because of that, because of this trip and what they did, they averted a pole shift. So, take it for what it's worth. You can believe it or not. But, a lot of people saw the cataclysms happening on Earth, psychics, and over, we're not going that direction now. The timeline is not going that direction. It was, and it's not. And this is because the Solar Gate has been controlled.
Yeah.
This is how they got in.
I was going to ask you, like, wasn't it, I don't know, what I see or sense, it was on some kind of like lockdown, or we couldn't access it appropriately, right? And
Yes,
so
666 quarantine, which I will talk about too, because now that's been lifted. Now this is where it came in. And what happened is the pyramids, which are stargates, right? You know that, got infiltrated by the black suns and the black dragons, the Belial suns.
We already know we don't like them.
So not all black dragons are bad.
No, they're not. I totally agree with you, but
I have a black dragon here.
Oh, so sweet.
But this is black dragons, but the like everything else, right? So this is a huge entity. It's so huge. It's like a universe. It's like planetary. There had to be a quarantine. So the Guardians put a quarantine on this planet. Let me just go ahead and skip ahead because I actually have it right. Oh, I wanted to show you, this is under light, different photos of it, because it has different aspects to it, this painting.
Oh, wow. That actually, that's crazy. That's crazy different.
That's when the light, so that's why, like, when you see art in a gallery, it's so different, or at home, because this one in particular, if you have a light, the light will shift off and on it, and it shines. It's really cool, and it becomes a vortex.
Yeah, it sure does, doesn't it?
So if the sun's hitting it, actually, like, all you'll see is the gold.
Wow.
It's so great. I love it. It's
That's
just
really cool.
Paint, Of course, that's how they used to paint, with gold leaf. So this is the 666 quarantine, which now has been lifted. And this genetic block became a curse for humanity over the last cycle, as it was passed down the genetic lines through inbreeding with the Anunnaki. And then Anunnaki got through that portal, which further digressed human DNA. Anunnaki and the Nephilim hybrids became carriers of the genetic block, and because of their disregard of the law of one and the natural laws of God and the intended genetic manipulation for human enslavement, this agenda further advanced the DNA distortions. Over time, the distortions manifested splitting between the elemental physical body layers and the subconscious mind and lower and higher aspects of the astral identity.
Giza, that is the 10th Stargate?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so so when that got exploited, that's when who put the quarantine on there?
So the Guardian races actually put the quarantine, but then it got like everything else. It got,
that means we were all stuck down here.
We got stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It means everyone's stuck down here. And it's like, and now no one's getting out until you fix the mess. Right? So
And
that's that unity consciousness of we're in it to win it.
this literally 75,000 years ago.
Mhm.
Okay. That's how long ago, if you can
Yeah.
fathom that kind of time
And
period.
and that seal was recently lifted.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I
Like this
mean,
year.
yeah, like 75,000 years of lockdown.
Yeah.
So, you can send in as many mission groups as you want, but you're not getting out. They couldn't remove it. They couldn't get it off. I don't know like why or how, or if they, kept getting enslaved when they would come down to assist or help, right? And it's like, our consciousness can only go so far. And it wasn't until this was lifted and until, now we have been in a whole new harmonic, right? Having complete access to new information. And it's like, people who even had as much information as they did bring here to planet, right? A lot of walk-ins, I think, had some of the most information, right? Because they were walking in with like, okay, here's the deal. We see this, you go in, and then you go in over here, and then we're gonna try to, meet each other up and figure it out here. But the walk, the they came in with like more information than we got stuck with. Do you know what I mean? And then, but then still couldn't get out. And it's not until this has been like shifted now it's, we can get in and out. And that's why more information is coming in and more of the awakening is happening. And it's like unlocked our consciousness. So, because we came here originally with all of the knowledge you've been painting about, all of the, with the wisdom keepers, right? And it was like we couldn't even access it, it seems. It seems like until,
It's like as if we lost our connection to God
yeah.
because we
Mhm.
could no longer reach God. And so that's how they were able to mimic God.
Right. And this is what they're trying to do. Thank you for saying that. And this is what they're trying to do, with the new shot in the dark, that they're trying to do is disconnect the God gene again. They're like, oh my gosh, everyone's waking up. Now they
Lift
know.
it,
Mhm.
they have to counteract it. That's why they're going in so strong with that you mentioned, because that's their only hope
Yep.
left to
That's
bring
all they
back
have.
666 quarantine
Yeah.
seal. And it
Yeah.
has 666 in the label. So
Yeah.
just so you know.
Exactly. Just so everyone has a heads up, this is not, by chance. This isn't happenstance. This is a real thing. Like, and that's why a lot of people are saying, I feel like I lost my connection to God, or, this is something about a God gene. There are a bunch of naysayers out there, but it's like they've been doing this for over 75,000 years. You think they're not going to try it again? Come on, you know?
So higher dimensional beings came into earth like Jesus. Yeshua.
Akhenaten, Hatshepsut,
Yes, those
King
are the four.
Arthur, Yeshua. Yeah.
Those
Hmm.
are the, but it's the four that are pillars. They're pillars. They came in at different times to try to bring in this higher frequency. We're now moving up so that the God worlds can come down, and that's what's happened. So now we can access each other. And before, only special beings could come in, and that's why we idolized them, because they actually could come in because they were such high frequency beings, and they were able to find a way to maneuver into a lower dimension and still be here and teach. Of course, they were all crucified. They were always killed.
Oh, yeah.
And now we,
So when you paint, Althea, are you like healing? Like every brush stroke you take, like are you healing your own traumas and healing your own body when you do this?
yeah, and actually having them on my own personal walls, like I have that one behind me, is healing for me, because when I wake up in the morning and I open my eyes and I see those paintings, it anchors me here,
Hmm.
and I'm able to like sort of be like, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
Hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a healing process. And teaching is even more of a healing process.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's the students um that are actually the teachers. That's how I look at it.
They always are.
I just think it's so amazing and beautiful, and it's it's moving, right? It's just absolutely moving. When we open up there's no difference between teacher and student in my eyes. I see it exactly the same, that holding the same value. So I find the exchange rewarding. And I don't like that word, but equal. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but
Yeah. Yeah,
awesome.
because I know that painting is like you can bypass all the
A picture is contemplative, right?
mhm.
And so uh, I find your paintings, like when you look at it, each time you look at it, you see a different color or a different stroke or a different, something. And it's like your contemplation of the material that you're translating is in there as well, right? Like you can feel your thought process, which is really fantastic. And it feels, that's why I asked that question. It feels very healing. Like it's you healing yourself through, your paintings. And like one of the extra layers feels like I can do it and so can you, right? Absolutely. Yeah, there's all kinds of therapies: writing, painting, drawing, talking, walking.
Well, you need an outlet to express yourself, and it really doesn't matter what that outlet is.
Yeah.
But if you don't have one, then you become depressed
Hmm. Yeah, that can definitely happen.
because you're literally depressing your creative force.
Yeah.
Like it can't express itself. It's depressed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for sharing your work. What a beautiful little treasure trove, like of a story. Like just these three pictures and these three things you put together are absolutely amazing and stunning. And ah, where can we find your work? Is this something you print up for people? Like how do people find you? Do you do like paintings for people, or
Yeah.
if they said,
If you go
"Hey,
to
I
my
want an interpretation."
if you go to my website, you'll find under commissions or portraits,
Mhm,
like people will give me an image and I'll paint around it, like
mhm.
have a couple in there, you know. Um,
Yeah, I had this really crazy experience. Oh, I love that.
so
Um,
you can see all my art in here. And then if you go into portraits,
mhm,
most of these are commissions.
beautiful.
Um,
Mhm,
and so like this one,
cool.
she's on YouTube. She does twin flame readings. And
Mhm,
so she we did an exchange and for astrology and she did and I just saw all this around her.
very
So
cool.
this one too is a portrait. So I just get a photo of them and then whatever like comes up around that person. And here's another one of her three sons who aren't with her. She doesn't have custody, so I did this for her.
Beautiful.
And she wanted all these extra things. So yeah, stuff like that is what I do. And this is for like he does 12 steps. So these are the 12 steps.
Wow, that's so cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of work. I have years and years of worth of work in this on this website.
Oh, that's amazing. AltheaArt.com.
Mhm.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your heart and soul, Althea. This is just absolutely beautiful. It's amazing. I love how you can express things that people can't otherwise understand, right? And it's cathartic to say, I don't understand what these words are, but I can feel what they are through the painting, you know? And I think that that's beautiful. So thank you for sharing your gifts with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Makes
All
me want
right.
to paint.
I know you need to go paint something.
Well, I haven't painted in so long because I'm teaching. And
Mhm.
so, there's dry spells with an artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
artist knows that
Mhm. Yeah. But
because you can only put your passions so far, spread those so thin.
yep, exactly. Anyway, I've taken up so much of your time. So I just want to say thank you. I'm so excited. You guys check her out. I'm going to drop all of her information down below so you can find Althea, get a beautiful painting of your own, or, study her paintings, especially people. I know there are a lot of you out there studying ES material and trying to understand pieces of what's being said. And if you don't want to read, you can look and feel which is fantastic for the emotional body. So I say give it a shot. Anyway, thank you so much again, and I'll just chat with you so much sooner.
Okay, bye. Thank you. What? Yeah, up on top of that shelf. You can make it with the mayonnaise. You could start using non-dairy products. What? You can make it with the mayonnaise and use non-dairy products. No. Okay. VV mind control. The main goal of the victim-victimizer mind control and software is based on divide and conquer tactics and intentionally programming humanity to think thoughts of violence and hatred about others to promote the archonic deception behaviors and their unethical AD strategies as a fear-based control belief system. As humans feed their power into these AD systems and hierarchies based upon violence, lies, and deception, the deception is covered up and is fabricated. Reality becomes an anti-value system to enforce the death culture. As long as humans think thoughts and maintain belief systems of the predator mind and feed into the alien software programs, they create victim and victimizers and spread more hatred and violence into the earth grids. Humans exchange roles between acting as the archetypal victim, and then because they do not want to be a victim anymore, they switch their role to become a victimizer. Both are forms of perpetuating inner and outer violence. What? Yeah, up on top of that shelf. You can make it with the mayonnaise. You could start using non-dairy products. What? You can make it with the mayonnaise and use non-dairy products. No. Okay. VV mind control. The main goal of the victim-victimizer mind control and software is based on divide and conquer tactics and intentionally programming humanity to think thoughts of violence and hatred about others to promote the archonic deception behaviors and their unethical AD strategies as a fear-based control belief system. As humans feed their power into these AD systems and hierarchies based upon violence, lies, and deception, the deception is covered up and is fabricated. Reality becomes an anti-value system to enforce the death culture. As long as humans think thoughts and maintain belief systems of the predator mind and feed into the alien software programs, they create victim and victimizers and spread more hatred and violence into the earth grids. Humans exchange roles between acting as the archetypal victim, and then because they do not want to be a victim anymore, they switch their role to become a victimizer. Both are forms of perpetuating inner and outer violence.